Hey y'all, I want to talk about Mika and the Witch's Mountain. Now, this is a game made by the people that made Koa and the Five Pirates of Mara, which was one of the first games that I had talked about, and one of the first games I got a code for when I first started doing this whole thing, and I really enjoyed that game. It was a 3D platformer, and this is like the next game that the studio has made, and it's also a sort of 3D platformer. Basically, the story is that you're this witch and you're trying to get this like wisdom from this older witch sage lady, but she thinks that you're not quite worthy yet, and so she basically kicks you off this mountain and you fall off, and then now you're basically in the surrounding area of this mountain on an island, and you're like, what am I gonna do? And you're basically trying to find a broom. Eventually you get one, and then that's kind of where the game really begins, is once you get this broom, because with the broom you get to fly around. And it's interesting because there is only one map, which is this island. The game itself, it takes a few hours to get through, so it's not a big game, and it's just kind of interesting how different it is compared to Koa. Because Koa, you know, you had a ship, you would go to different little island pieces on one map, whereas this one, all or most of the island pieces are together. You know, they're all in this one little hub area. You're not going out too far into the ocean. You don't even really, you technically could like walk on the water, but you're not really meant to swim anywhere. There are little boats you can visit along the way, but this is a game that's built around you more flying your broom than walking. And so how does the broom feel? It feels pretty good. It takes a little getting used to. You know, when you have flying in games, sometimes it could be a little wonky. I'm not the best at flying in games, whether it was like the, you know, Hogwarts Legacy or just like planes and ships and space. I'm not great at that, like doing Starfield and that sort of thing. So I was like, oh, let's see how this feels. But it gives you kind of a boost option right away to begin, which is nice. And as you go through the game, you unlock more stuff. So you start with a smaller broom, then you get a better broom that you can use to like speed through these little circles to gain speed. You'll be able to eventually levitate and kind of take yourself up higher to the next level. And you do that over the course of days. So that's kind of how the story goes, is it takes place like day by day. So you have day 1, day 2, day 3, and so on and so forth. And when you're on this island, you're like, okay, well, what am I gonna do now? I need to get back up to this thing. And you get somebody to help you build a broom and get parts. And then where the key point of the game lies is delivering stuff. So this is a delivery game. You're delivering mail. So if you like games like the game Lake, which I played a couple years ago, which I really liked, which was also about delivering mail, you'll like this game. You know, delivering mail is kind of like the catalyst for the story, to move the story along. So it's interesting to play that in a different way. So if you're obsessed with like taking things to people, make sure they're getting to the right person, point A to B, you're gonna like this game. If you don't like that sort of thing, this game might not be for you. I feel like it's a little bit more niche maybe in that way compared to Koa. So, you know, I don't know if it's many people play it overall, but the game has a similar style and it looks really good. It's got a little bit of a cartoony vibe to it. There is text with voiceover as well, which is another thing that they carried over. And yeah, it's all about the characters you meet. This kind of game relies on you meeting all these wacky sort of characters and their personalities. Everybody's kind of got an over-top personality. And it's nice and it's charming, you know? It's a game, too, because of its style that you want to play a little bit at a time. Even though it's a shorter game, you don't necessarily have to play it all in one go. I would say you might be able to split up in, let's say, like 2 sessions, 3 at the most. Play like an hour here, an hour there, get through one day and play it. Whereas like Koa, there's a little bit more of just kind of, you can kind of go wherever with it as far as like your own pace. And as you're delivering mail, other objects pop up that you can deliver for like bonuses, like bonus costumes, that sort of thing. But the catch is here, and this is where the gameplay element kind of comes into it a bit more, is that as you're delivering this stuff, depending on what the item is, there's a certain level of breakability. So if you hit an item 1 or 2 many times, it might break, and then you've lost the item, then you have to go all the way back to where you originally got the item from and pick it up again. This applies to collectibles, this applies to the main mail you're getting, and then as I mentioned earlier about the water, that's also a factor. If you get it too wet, that might be an issue. And each item will have a little indicator of, oh, it can take this many hits before it breaks. It can touch the water this many times. So as you're like trying to speed through of it, it's tough because sometimes you go too fast and then the momentum takes you and it's hard to slow down real quick and then you might break something and slam into a wall because of momentum speed, because you just want to keep going and it's hard to kind of do a quick stop on it. But, you know, it was still fun to do, and, you know, you unlock harder items to deliver as time goes on. It becomes more challenging. Each day you have a certain amount of items that you're supposed to deliver, and then as the days progress, the list keeps increasing and increasing. The amount of, like, side objects you can pick up on your own is increasing and increasing. And then as you go, you learn more about the island itself as well, and kind of the lore of that. You run into some more interesting creatures. And yeah, this game is a fun, good time. If you like 3D platformers, if you can get over to flying and get used to it, it's very charming, worth your time. Again, this studio so far has done a couple nice little fun adventure games, and I think people should go out and play it. I was playing it on Steam, but I believe you could get it on other platforms as well.